Okay. Sego. Sego's going to go. Sego Guego. So, hello. Thank you for coming to today's Cedar Tea Break on behalf of Ontario Presents. I am Terry Lynn Brennan, the Administrative Director here at OP, and I'm always very humbled and grateful to colleagues around the province who are and have developed relationships between settler and Indigenous, uh, in our sector, and are also willing to talk a little bit about their story and their evolution in building that relationship as we continue to still work at a time where the TRC is calling and asking all of us to build those relationships, as and especially next week with September 30th on its way. So it's a good time to continue to remind ourselves that we can do this and we can build relationships in a respectful and easy way, really, because we're all capable of that. Of those emotions and of that kind of outreach. So I'm going to shut up now and just basically introduce my two great friends and colleagues, Rachel Marks and Jason Manitowabi, who are going to speak about how their relationship evolved through the Réseau SPARC network. I'll turn it over to you two.
Good morning. So I guess I'll just start with introducing myself and a little bit about how Rachel and I work together and a little bit of how we met. So my name is Jason Manitowabi. I am coming to you today from the Wakumakong and Cedar Territory on Manitoulin Island. I have a long background in the arts, from just being on every stage play since from public school into high school, playing music with my friends. I attended Trebas in Toronto for recorded music production and audio engineering and DJ arts. Stuck around in Toronto for a little bit. Came back home and I worked at the Bajabajig Theatre Group, which is an Indigenous arts organization that's traveled around the world in theater. So I kind of saw that they were putting together a music program, and I convinced them to hire me because I'm an artist, I'm local, and I needed somewhere to work to sharpen my skills. So I helped build a recording studio there. I started a music festival there, which went into its 6th year just this past summer. Actually, we're still in summer, but it's pretty much over after certain events. But yeah, and more recently, I had moved into the community. The Bajabajig is actually the Creation Center is in the next town over in Manitowabi, which is a township, just a very small, picturesque, sleepy town, but it's beautiful. But it's in the next town over, and it's just outside the reserve. And I wanted to be closer to my kids. I have twin kindergartners, which are 5-year-olds. So I took a job at the tourism office, and what's happening right now in our community is we've added arts to pair up with culture and education and put it as one of the pillars in our community. And it's very important that our community has done that, because it wasn't there before, even though we know we've had some artists that have traveled around the world with their work, many visual artists. We have some great musicians, and it's just a really great thing to have some support and platforms built for artists, and that weren't essentially there before. As you all know, in the arts, if you're an artist, you have a small group of probably in your community that your art starts in your bedroom or your basement, or just in small stages with friends. And there's not always a for instance, if you play hockey, there's an arena in every town, but there's not necessarily an arts somewhere to go practice your art. So it's important, and I think that it fell into my lap at the perfect. So I moved to the tourism office, and now I'm an events coordinator, where I still lead the music festival. And a little bit about how I joined SPARC was through producing this festival. I started to make friends such as like Cynthia Liquor Sage, who sort of saw what I was doing as an Indigenous presenter, and she said, we need more Indigenous presenters. So she started to invite me and advocate for me to join certain groups and take me to places like Folk Music Ontario, which I've never been to before as an artist, which was weird. And I thought it was exciting. Folk Music International, the International Indigenous Music Summit is where I attended in Montreal. And at the same time, David Barnard at Canadian Heritage sort of bumped up this job posting for SPARC. And I looked into it, and it was kind of a lot of what I was trying to do anyway, which was to get folks from far northern communities, to sort of find their way into the mainstream, which isn't always easy with the challenges that, that are there with not only just being rural and remote, but just a difference in sort of the world that growing up on a reservation might be. There's culture shock when you move into the city, and it's not always easy. And of course, there's certain discriminations and things like that you have to overcome. So I kind of saw the position as a good. I was definitely very scared. I said, I don't think I could do that. And usually when something like that comes up, it kind of pushes me more towards it as a challenge, just like any artist would. The arts, they kind of give you that strength, and that it affords you that ability to challenge yourself and be ready to accept criticism and things like that. So I was happy to make it through all the rounds of the interviews. I was actually sitting in Montreal at my hotel late at night after I came back from the International Indigenous Music Summit, some of the sessions that they had, and I did, I think, my final interview there. So when I got back from Montreal, I found out that I had the position, and it started really well. And I started to travel around to northern communities. And then COVID hit, and right around that time is when the new coordinator position came into place, and that's when I met Rachel. And we spent many years working beside each other. I mean, on screen with each other before we finally met, just like at the end of 2022. So it's been a little bit of a wild ride. We had to learn how to do things differently. We had to pick up new skills as a productive and technical skills that you never had before necessarily. You had to kind of learn how to do that. And I think we've all done a decent job if we're still here operating in the arts. And it was a weird time through COVID. A lot of us, a lot of people didn't realize it, but they needed the artists and arts professionals to sort of step up and get us through it. So I was happy to keep my position and some of the things that I helped to grow over the years intact. So it was really nice to start to get along with my position at SPARC and move into communities in the north, and sort of see the same challenges that I faced growing up. Even though I'm not necessarily in northern Ontario, I'm like right in the middle, we're still considered northern Ontario, and a lot of the resources are just not readily available. But the farther you move up north, the farther you go, you learn to see how good you kind of have it in the south to just be close to things that you wouldn't otherwise be. Yeah, so that's how I came into this position. And I've been working with Rachel, and I'm learning a lot from her. And I'm sure we trade, things that we find useful, and just, how this whole thing is put together. I've always believed in allyships and partnerships, and, just how things work. And, there are different views on it, but, I still stand beside my beliefs in, learning from each other the best way you can. And that's through traveling and, putting your boots on the ground in certain places and experiencing it. So I'm not sure how much more I could share about that was my intro, but I hope you kind of got the idea of where I came from and how I got here.
Thanks, Jason. Should I do my intro? Hi, I'm Rachel. Rachel Marks, Executive Director of Réseau SPARC Network, which is not how I started out, but before that happens, before I get there, I'm joining you today from Delta, Ontario, tiny little village in the county of Leeds and Grenville, north of Kingston. This is the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee, the Algonquin people, and the Mohawk people, and I'm very blessed to be here. We are covered by the Crawford Purchase of 1783, which I just, there's so many problems with it. I can't even get into it. But I'll just say I'm very happy to be here. This is a beautiful part of the country. I was not raised here. I actually am literally a settler. I moved to Canada when I was 7. We moved to Niagara-on-the-Lake, and I grew up there. I've been involved in theater, so not music, but theater my whole life. It's a family affair. And then I moved here and lived rurally. But when I first moved to Canada, one of the very first places I went was Manitowabi Island. And when I was in high school, Debaj did a residency at my school. So at my interview for SPARC, my second interview, the first one was virtual, which was kind of ahead of its time by a few months. But my second one was in person, and Jason zoomed in and he's like, I live on Manitoba. And I was like, oh, cool. And then he's like, I work at Debaj. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. Like, that's so funny. These were experiences in my early life that really had a huge impact on me. And it was really sort of serendipity to then be working with such a gracious and wonderful human being as Jason, who is involved with, lives on Manitoba and was involved with Debaj and still is. So immediately I felt a type of kinship draw to Jason. And throughout as he said, like, we worked together fully. So I was hired a month before the pandemic. My first job with SPARC was to cancel everything that we were doing, which was great. But Jason and I worked together for 2.5 years before ever physically meeting each other. So our relationship consisted of texts, phone calls, Zoom calls, and emails. And I think navigating the way that both of us work best during a pandemic, when there was so much going on, and both of us were so committed to work within our communities, especially Jason, everything he did in his community and for his community during the pandemic went above and beyond. And just finding a way for us to create programs and bring ideas to fruition and keep we are the staff. Like, that's it. We have an amazing board, one of whom is here today, but we are the staff for SPARC. And so to keep things going, to keep writing grants, to keep programs going during a pandemic and navigating a new working relationship, I feel like we did really well, eh, Jason?
I would like to think so. We're still in our positions and we're still, producing, results. So yeah, I think I would say so. I would agree. Mm-hmm.
What I'd like to do, if everyone's okay with it, and what Jason and I talked about, is Jason came up with this amazing program during COVID. So do you want to speak about Sparks of Hope a little bit, Jason?
Sure. Yeah. So one of the things that I had to pivot on, the direction I was going with my position, and the initial position was to, sort of build membership and travel. That was one of the things I wanted to do, was travel, and they kind of took that away from us. So we used the resources that we had, and Zoom is just blown up. I never even heard of Zoom before the pandemic. I don't even know if I've ever done a conference call, but we were working with it was a way to communicate, and through Facebook calling and video messaging and things like that. So one of the things you think to use is the technology. So an idea was just to sort of there was a lot of negativity, and there was a lot of people were really scared of what was going to happen next, and frustrated about being locked in their communities, basically. So one of the things we thought of was just to sort of get artists, and also find a way to keep paying artists, which was important. Yeah, so put my money into the pockets of artists, was to get them to create wherever they were sitting. And Crystal did this from Nashville, Tennessee, and she's from the community here. She has a house here. She, her family lives here, and of course she has a house in Nashville. So I reached out to her, the first person with this idea, and of course we covered several other artists that were coming in from around the province. So she actually recorded something from Nashville, but at the same time she travels back and forth, and she's always here in the community. She was just here last week, and now she's back down in Nashville. So it still worked to sort of showcase artists to give people a positive message, and at the same time showcase their art and share that. And it worked out really well, in the sense that we were able to find people that were looking for that huge loss of revenue that they were experiencing, and then having it all taken away very quickly like that. So she was gracious enough to put something together for us quickly, and then she sent some things to me, and I kind of edited something. I was driving around the community just taking shots. I think my kids are in a couple of the scenes, and she's always willing to help. So yeah, I guess we could go ahead and share a little bit of that. It's called the Sparks of Hope, and she was the first one to respond immediately and put something together. So yeah, it's not very long, but we could show at least part of it, and it shows a little bit of the idea of the whole thing. So
I hope it's okay that I just share like this. I'm a little bit not so tech savvy, and sometimes when I enlarge the YouTube, for some reason it just disappears. So I hope this is okay for everyone. And here we go.
I am from Wequemcong. Those are my roots, and my roots run deep. A wise man once told me that a community is much like a tree. Although we may branch off in many different directions, it is our roots that bind us. And so whenever I face struggles and hardships in my life, I think about my community and everything that they've been through. And it is their strength and resilience that inspires me. It is those roots that keep me firmly planted in the ground, unwavering. I love my community.
Hi, I'm Crystal Shawanda, and this is my song, Bigger Than the Blues. This is a song that I wrote with Dwayne Strobel, who is my husband, my guitar player back there, and my producer. And we wrote this song one day out of some very honest conversations about mental health, depression, and suicide. And it was very much inspired after hearing about the passing of Kelly Fraser, a very talented Inuk pop artist who took her life. And it really moved us, and it also triggered a lot of memories for us of different loved ones of ours who had also taken their lives. And we decided that we wanted to write a song that could ignite some sparks of hope for anybody listening to it. And it was our hope that somebody would hear this song, that people would hear this song when they would need to hear it the most, when they're going through a very dark moment in their life. And we hope that these words could inspire these sparks of hope to bring enough light into their life so that they can get through this dark place in their life. And so whatever you're struggling with, whatever is wearing you down and breaking you down, I hope that you can listen to this song, and I hope that you can realize that you too are bigger than the blues, and that you're gonna get through this, and that you're gonna be okay. And we're just very honored to be a part of this Sparks of Hope campaign. And I would like to send a very special thank you to my longtime friend, Jason Manitowabi, who's the Northern Outreach Coordinator. Thank you so much, Chimigwech.
When you spend all your time in your troubled mind, there's no peace you'll find, just the blues. And you work it's been a while. That's the truth. When you're strong like a river and tall like a mountain, then you're bigger than, bigger than, bigger than, bigger than the blues. In your heart you believe it, in your soul you can feel it, that you're bigger than, bigger than, bigger than, bigger than the blues.
And it goes more into the whole song, and you can find all of that on our YouTube page, I believe. Is that right, Rachel? Yes.
And
So,
I
yeah.
really want to credit Jason with this campaign. And you can hear from Crystal, you know, community, right? And Jason's dedication to his community during the pandemic was apparent through this campaign. And he really, it is a gift, right? He really led us towards this grant that we were able to get to keep artists and technicians paid during the pandemic. And we funded 12 Sparks of Hope, and then also 10 rural and remote art visibility campaign videos. And this all came from Jason's lead and from his thoughtfulness around what people need. And I think, Jason, your intuition and your connection is something that I very much admire about you and really take the lead from, because you definitely know what people need and what's happening.
Thank you. You know, it's just some of the things that you come up with, but I think it resonated with anybody around the world. You know, you start to realize that you know, it's not just your community, it was happening everywhere. And you know, you foster those relationships and those resources that you've gained you know, through the whole idea of this you know, working with the allies and the partners that you learned from. So I think it came in at you know, it worked, it blended well together. There was so much going on even before the pandemic. It was a very online. There was a lot of you know, a lot of dark subjects being passed around, and as artists we were, you know, in the middle of it. But that's the thing about being an artist or working with artists, is you get that chance to you know, speak up about things and be on a platform where they could be heard. And of course, anybody knows as an artist you're going to be challenged, but that's the bravery part of it. And you know, I always appreciated that part of it. And I like the message that Crystal sort of gives. You know, she's faced it her whole life. I grew up with her here in the community and watched her you know, be out there and struggle, because I was you know, I was writing music when I was very young too. I just I admire her a little bit more because she stuck with it. She faced it, and she had more challenges than I could have, you know, as a female. That wasn't, you know, they're not always paid attention to or taken seriously. But you know, she didn't let that bother her. She was out there as a teen, you know, trying to make it in Nashville. And you know, she came back several times, and you know, finally she made it, you know. And you know, she did her own things with the record label, and eventually moved on from that. Like, just the way Nashville works, nobody stays on a record label or in the spotlight forever. It's, you know, it's the next person moves in, but she still manages to find a you know, a relevant place down there. And she even, you know, moves from discipline to discipline seamlessly, and people still remember her for what, you know, she went there for. And you know, I admired the way she stuck with it. And you know, I still ask her for advice, and you know, I still look up to her. So, and she's always willing to share things like that. So yeah, you know, I'm just really amazed at how that project turned out. And there were so many other disciplines. There were comedians that were submitting things, and we needed that, you know. We needed, you know, that laughter to go along with the, you know, music and other things that people presented. So yeah, I hope that Rachel has something to present from the same timeline. Yeah, because she worked really hard on some things as well. And if you're able to share something, That's fine if you're not, but if you could talk about some of the things you did, that would be cool too.
Thanks, Jason. So yeah, Jason focused on Sparks of Hope, and I focused on the Rural and Remote Arts Visibility Campaign, which we're hoping to do a second iteration of slightly differently moving forward. But whereas Jason's focus was on making sure that people felt entertained or heard or cared for during the pandemic, I wanted to make sure that people remembered that they don't have to leave rural and remote areas to experience the arts. And so we funded 10 projects with 10 different communities or artists around the province, creating short films, which are also available on our YouTube. And it was interesting having the two projects going at once, and the ability that Jason and I had to keep these on track, and keep things going, being so many hundreds of kilometers apart and never having met in real life. I know we build these great relationships online now, but there's definitely something to be said. And that first time Jason and I met and we hugged, it was just wow, here's this person that's been a large part of my life for 2.5 years, and who's doing these amazing things in his community and very dedicated to his family, his community, and his work. What lessons can I take from that? And then also to be hugged by that person was quite a moment for me. I've got little tears in my eyes right now, actually. Sorry, I'm getting a little verklempt. But I wanted to maybe switch things around and really take a hard look at, am I doing the right things? Are we doing the right things? So I actually have a question for Jason, and I hope everyone's okay with me asking this, and maybe this will make you ask the same questions with your relationships if you have someone as open as Jason to work with. And my first question is, has SPARC built a safe place for you to feel respected and honored in your position in your work?
Absolutely. Like I said, I was a little afraid of the position I was taking on. I'd never done anything like that before, and just getting into the group and just being respected as there was a good point in my life where I didn't see myself as an artist, and I think every artist goes through that. But it sort of built my the whole meaning of what I believe in back up when I joined this organization. And I still struggle with, am I doing enough? Am I doing what the organization wants me to? But they've been so, this organization has been so supportive, and I'm reassured all the time. Yes, you don't have to worry. And Rachel does that quite a bit and says, you don't have to worry so much about whether you're doing enough, because it's happening all over the world. It's a weird time. So, I've always appreciated that this organization sort of gives me that drive to, not only follow, sort of the direction that they want to take the vision of the organization, but to also have my own vision to create how I think I can contribute and keep contributing. So yeah, it's been a great place to work, and definitely, wherever I go from here, and when I get closer to the next level of my career, I'll definitely take everything that I've learned here and take a little bit of what I've learned from everybody on the boards and my coworkers as well. So yes, the short answer would be yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I have another one. I hope it's okay. Are we doing enough? Are we doing enough as an organization? So, for example, at our last symposium, for the first time, we had a traditional elder welcome us to the land, and we had a traditional meal prepared by the local community, and we had a workshop by Debaj Majig. But we were told, it's not enough, do more. So we are trying to prioritize Indigenous voices at the next symposium, but are we doing enough, Jason, in your opinion?
Well, that could be viewed differently depending on who you ask. I think so. I think it's not an easy rush thing that you could just throw into the mix. I mean, there's so much that we've been asking for hundreds of years. We want to, you know, be heard, but that's finally coming into play. Around my community, for example, people are still a little afraid of sharing too much. But you know, I know how I grew up, and I've been out in the city. I spent a lot of, you know, a good portion of my life in Toronto, some years in Sudbury and other cities. So I've been out there, and I know that none of that existed before. It was very, you know, it was very rare to see anybody taking in any Indigenous cuisine or even hearing the language anywhere. So I think we're doing enough, and we're doing it at a pace that's feasible to sort of you know, understand it better. You know, it's a little bit overwhelming, and in this country, with the, you know, sorry, my cat just walked, but yeah, he wants to go outside, but you know, he's just gonna have to wait. Yeah, I think if you rush into things too quickly, it gets you know, you miss a lot of things. So the gradual, you know, understanding and learning by adding and sharing at a good pace, I think, is a little bit better than overwhelming everybody with everything. Because right now, especially for Indigenous folks and the Indigenous community, and having all of these things just pop up, the Robinson Huron Treaty agreement and the things like that, it's a little overwhelming, especially for not only for us but for Canadians in general. Like, they don't understand what the generations before them, you know, did. So it's a little hard to grasp. So I think just easing into it is a little bit better. But I'm so happy to see, you know, when we were at the symposium, and I went over to talk to the chefs, because I've never been into that community, and there's just such a wide range of even languages. Not all languages are the same. Only a few get highlighted every once in a while, and you know, I still feel a little bad for the other languages that are existing, and you know, only hearing miigwech. Miigwech is only one way to say thank you. There are hundreds of other ways around the country. So I think you know, it's a start. So I definitely think it's enough to get started and open up those conversations. Yeah. So I'll leave it right there. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Terry, I just looked at the former stage manager here. So I just looked at the time and realized we should probably open up for questions.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you both for sharing all of that amazing journey and work together. That's it's brilliant. And you know, given who's in the audience today, rural and remote presenters are here. So it's you know, it's really important, I think, for the messages to be shared in this way. So does anyone in the audience have a particular question for Rachel or Jason? I can tell you're thinking, Sam. Okay. Obviously, no one's forced to do this. But okay. If that's the case, do you have any final thoughts, Rachel or Jason?
I would like to say that, Jason, I really appreciate working with you. I tend to get caught up in the busyness of life. And you have really taught me to take a broader view and to take a beat and to think about things before rushing in. And I think that's a really valuable lesson in life. And that's part of your personality and your working style. And I really appreciate that. And I appreciate your openness and the fact that you lead us on a lot of initiatives that sometimes I think maybe we put too much work on you as an Indigenous leader and Indigenous arts leader. But you're so open to helping us learn and helping us grow that I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I have a question, if it's not too late. Jason, I was just curious, what's your favorite situation to perform in? Do you like a conventional theater situation? Do you like a less formal gathering, whether it be in like a home or a parlor or a bar or an outdoor kind of setting? I mean, I know they're all very different experiences. I guess I'm just wondering if there's one you lean towards, what might it be?
I like the intimate, smaller settings, whether it be like a smoky bar, or I growing up as a teenager, I was opening up on stages, just not right before, but on the same stages like Buffy St. Marie and Cashin, and these huge venues. And I was only 14, so you don't get a chance to think about too many things when you're that young as an artist. So as I grew a little bit older, I really like the intimate, where you can actually lock eyes with people in the room and exchange afterwards. So that's where I feel comfortable. I think I don't perform as much as I used to, as much as I'd like to, but that's just life. I'm more on a presenting level, and I'm okay with that too. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you.
You can catch Jason at our symposium. He leads a great jam and open mic. I would highly recommend it.
Yes.
All right. Jason, any final words?
I just wanted to thank everybody. Terry, thank you for your leadership. Every time we meet up, you bring this level of pleasantness and calmness to me that I certainly appreciate, and very knowledgeable, and I always appreciate your guidance. And I look up to a lot of the programming that you do, and this is another great thing that I'm glad I was a part of. So thank you.
Oh, Chimigwedge. Or as I would say, Nyawagoa. Thank you. Yeah. I'm always humbled and so I feel honored to be with folks like yourself, Jason, and Rachel, who's also an international star. So it's amazing to me that you are in my life as well, and that you both are humble enough to share with OP's membership a bit of your story. Jason is also a board member of Ontario Presents, for those who didn't realize that either. And we also have another board member on the call. John Fawcett is also on our board, and so it's a great opportunity to learn from each other and grow as an organization, but also to grow as a network within the arts ecology of Ontario, and to share the wisdom that is out there for presenters who might not have the opportunity to make these connections readily with their local neighbors. But folks are able to be reached out to, and start conversations about introductions and making their way. And as Jason said, we're all from different communities, but it doesn't mean we're unapproachable. And yeah, certainly starting with food is brilliant. The caterer that did your symposium, I'm getting some moose meatloaf from her next week, and some bannock for an event that I'm holding here on the island. So yeah, it's all amazing. And thank you for coming today, and for taking a bit out of your busy schedules to listen to this story. It was recorded, and we're going to continue to record our sessions going forward. I do have the next pairing coming up on October 20th, I believe is the date. Jason Duggan, again from Kingston's Grand Theatre, and elder grandmother Kate Brandt, who's been working there with him for 5 years. They're going to come back and kind of move, they'll talk a little bit about their story again for those who weren't in the first session, but they're going to talk about how they work together to set up this current season that is opening next weekend at the Grand, and talk about how the season has kind of come about as a collaborative effort with grandmother Kate in the works there, just to give you maybe an extra ideas of how you can work with Indigenous partners, collaborators, or in this case, elders who are part of your part of your, not only your network, but part of your team to make spaces more comfortable, opening, and welcome to Indigenous peoples in general. So that will be at 11 a.m. on October 20th, and look forward to all of you hopefully coming back for that as well. So on behalf of OP, and thank you, Sydney, for being here and getting everything sorted as well. Thank you so much, Nyawagoa, Rachel, and Jason, and thank you everyone for coming. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, and look forward to seeing you all again really soon.
Take care, everybody. Have a great day, and it was nice to meet everybody.
Bye.
Bye.